Are you looking for a comm system to talk to your buddy on a budget? Well, this might be the one for you. It is the GXP X10, and it also has a capability of connecting up to mesh networks. So let's take a look. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. So for full disclosure, I was sent this communication system to test out, which actually is pretty good timing because I'm getting ready to do, I don't know, what is it, a 2,000-mile trip. And I wanted to try out a different communication system. So the XGP X10 was sent to me to try out, which is this little module here. I've had a lot of luck with the more budget-oriented communication sets. I've had a couple different ones. And the one thing I can say about them is the battery life on these tends to be really, really fantastic. Now, communications, it's hit and miss with some of the more budget-oriented ones. So I'm really going to try this out and see how it goes. Now, as I said, you know, if you're looking to talk to your buddy and you guys don't want to spend a lot of money on a communication system, for $200, you can get this whole set, split it between the two of you, $100 each. And you'll be able to communicate. You can listen to music, you know, podcasts, whatever it is while you're riding. And then you're not going in fully to a really expensive high dollar set. And I do have an experience with that I will share a little bit later here. Now, this particular system comes with the 2 units. I think the last list price I saw on it was $199. I think there will be discounts. If I get a discount, I'll leave that in the description below so that you can use that to reduce the price. I don't really do box openings, so it's pretty straightforward on everything you get. You get the unit and everything you need to put the speakers in the helmet and a mounting system, so there's nothing special there. Now, what I do like about this particular unit over some of the older units that I've used is everything is going to USB-C, which is a faster way of charging, so I'm very happy about that. It should work pretty well. So the 3 things that I'm going to test out on this is, 1, how long this battery lasts. I'm going to be spending multiple days riding. It's where I'll be riding 8 to 9, maybe 10 hours a day. So when I'm doing that, I want to see how well this does, how long this battery lasts, and be able to report back. The second thing is I don't have someone to ride with, so I'm going to come up with a makeshift way of testing out how far of a distance I can get in communicating, and I'll show that later. I have a spare helmet. I'm going to throw the extra one in. I'm going to put a speaker in the helmet with some music. I'm going to leave it out in my driveway, and then I'm going to ride away and see how far I can get and how it sounds. Because I think at a particular distance, I'll start getting the distortion and I'll know exactly how far that is. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to test whether or not I can connect this unit up to the Cardo system that I have. I have a Cardo Neo, and with that mesh network, we're going to make sure this does actually work, so that if you're going out on big group rides or you're riding with someone you don't normally ride with, it's easy for you to connect it up. So those are the things that I'm going to be testing out for this unit. Now, real quick, I'll just go through some of the, looking at some of the features and how it works. And then I will get it installed on the helmet. After I get it installed, I'll show you what that looks like. All right, the unit itself is, I don't know, it's just like about anything else. It's about the same size. It feels a little bit more compact than some of the other ones I've used. It's a little thinner, if you can see that. But after, I need to see how it mounts up. I need to wait until I get it mounted on the helmet to see how wide it is and how much exposure it's going to have to the wind and how much noise it's going to add to the helmet. So we'll see. And then it has the dial here for volume. So I'm hoping that's pretty easy to control with a glove. And then on the top, you have a rewind and fast forward, like skip ahead, skip back. And that also has controls over calls. So you can look in the instruction book. I don't usually take calls on my bike, so I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to that, but you can do that when you pair it to your phone. And then this button here in the middle is how you get it to set up a mesh network. So that's one of the big things I want to test out, is how well that works. And really, that's about it. There's the button here that turns it on. It's pretty simple installation. I think the buttons are nice and big, so this should be easy to use with gloves and the functionality that you need. Real quick, in this box, there's individual small boxes that comes with everything you need to mount this to your helmet. It has a wired microphone that is loose that you can tuck in a cheek pad or something. And then it also has more of like a boom mic type of microphone that you could stick out in front of your mouth if you have a modular helmet to lift up and down. I don't typically use these, even though I use modular helmets. I've had pretty good luck just tucking this into my cheek pad and being able to get the sound that way. And then here's the speakers. Wow, they're heavy. I was surprised by that. So they may have quite a bit of volume out of it, and we'll see what the quality of sound is. And then the thing to remember is when you're riding with earplugs, you're always going to lose a little bit of quality in your sound. But as long as you can hear, it should be just fine. And somewhere in here should be a wiring harness to wire it up. Oh, yeah, in here is the plug. So it just goes to the USB-C plug on the unit. Installation is done. I went with a sticky pad, and I've never been able to get the clipped connectors. I just think these helmets have too much going on inside. So I always use the sticky. On this helmet, I had put the sticky pad on here, but this doesn't have a lot of bend to it, so I had to find more of a flatter surface on the helmet to stick it on, and I think it's just fine here. Now this helmet has a communication system that clips in here, so I could run the wires through. So I just made it so that the wires come through and then tuck in without having to wrap around. And then this unit just sits on there. And the one thing that I found is the plug, really got to push it in there hard to make sure it clicks in all the way. The first time I put the plug in, I didn't get it in all the way. And I could tuck this in a little bit more just so that it's not a snag area, but I'm not too concerned about it because I'm mostly going to be road riding with this. Next thing I want to do is test out the range on this comm system. So I have a spare helmet here that I went ahead and installed the comms unit on. And the easiest way to do this is to have one in a static position. I have a speaker, and I'm going to basically turn music on, put it inside the helmet, have them connected, and see how far I can go. Now, I do have a hill that I'm going to drop down, and then it levels back out up here a little bit further. We're going to see what the range is. I think that's range is always important if you're going to be riding with somebody else, to know how far you can go and what that distance between you is going to be. I've used some other comm systems where when you start getting that greater distance, it gets a lot of static. You get almost you get a digital sound in it. So I'm going to find out what that's like and see what that range is. So if this is something you're wanting to get for your buddies, you know what to expect. So I just finished testing this. It only took a couple of minutes to do. Line of sight, I think line of sight, the best I could do out here where I live, which has a lot of hills up and down, is about 1/4 of a mile. Oh, don't blow over again. Which is about 1/4 of a mile. And I don't, I think if you don't have any obstructions, any houses, any trees, you could go much further than that, of course, because it's line of sight. But riding in the mountains and in and out, I think you're going to need to be fairly close to your buddy. But I even experienced that with using more expensive brands, that if we had very much distance between us, we started fading. So it seems to be, with the testing that I just did, equivalent to anything else I've used. So just be aware, it's not going to have an extraordinary amount of distance riding around between you and your buddy if you're using it for comms like that. My camera's about to blow over again. It's pretty windy here today. So yeah, if you're going to have the comms and you're going to want to talk and you want to stay in constant communication, stay close. As long as it's not terribly dusty, it should be okay. If it's really dusty, it might be problematic. So just something to keep in mind. But it seems to me that the range on it is equivalent to all of the other comm systems I've used. The final test I have for the GXP comm unit is to see if I could pair it with a Cardo unit. Now this is the Cardo Neo, and I was successful in getting these two devices to connect. So if you decide to go with something like this and you have other riding buddies, or you're doing a group ride and they have, say, Cardo, then there is a way for them using the mesh network and the system there. I just was able to get on the Cardo app and hit the mesh button on here to look for a mesh network that was trying to sync up, and it put it together pretty quickly. So I'm not going to go through all the steps on doing that. If you have a Cardo, it's pretty simple. Just use the app. But the important thing is this is compatible with other mesh networks. I don't have a Cena, so I don't know if it'd be compatible with that, but I do know that this is compatible with the Cardo, which makes it a really good option if you're not wanting to spend a fortune on communications devices. Now, I think when I looked at the price on this, without any discounts, it's about $200 for 2 units and the speakers and microphone, where the Cardo Neo that I have there is $250 just for 1 device. So I think budget-wise, this is much, much better. Final assessment on this device: since I primarily ride alone, the things that matter to me are decent sound quality and battery life. So from that standpoint, the sound quality was fine. I listen to a lot of music, listen to podcasts, and the volume that I'm able to get out of it, even with earplugs, was sufficient enough for riding hours upon hours in heavy, heavy wind and different conditions. It was fine. I never had any issues with not being able to hear, and then using turn-by-turn direction worked perfectly. No issues there. The volume control I found to be a little bit more difficult to use than some others. I think buttons are a little bit easier with the big buttons, but it was just a matter of getting used to spinning the dial with my finger. Initially, I wasn't maybe moving it as much as I thought I was, because there isn't the tactile feel of turning that you would have with the buttons and feeling them go in. But once I got used to it, it was fine. The range on this, just doing some of my own testing and not having anyone else to ride with to test the range, I thought it's equivalent to every other device that I've used over a certain distance, quarter mile or more, especially if there's a lot of obstructions. You're just not going to have communication. If you're on open road where you can see the other person for miles straight ahead, I'm sure it'll work just fine. I just wasn't in a position where I could test that out. And being able to pair it up with other devices, other brands, makes this a great choice. So if you have a buddy that you ride together all the time and you just want to pick something up where you guys have communications without spending a fortune, this is a great way to go. And then if you do group rides, meet up with people, maybe people you don't know, and you can get paired up with their devices. So I think that's a nice feature to be able to put these things together. Battery life seemed fine, riding all day long, 8 to 10 hours a day. I never had a problem where I ran out of battery. The one thing that I really wish that this did is when you turn it on, it would tell me what the battery life is. It didn't do that. And then knowing when it's like at 50% or when the battery is low, those would be points of reference that I'd like to have. Now, I typically, if I'm gonna be riding all day, when I stop for lunch, I'll plug in a battery bank to my comms just to charge it back up to make sure I have plenty of battery life for the entire day. Mostly to make sure I can hear turn-by-turn directions, but also so that I can get, have sound, podcasts, whatever it is that I'm listening to. The only thing I would want changed is the battery life, to know exactly how much battery is in the device at different points of turning it on and off. So yeah, that's my experience with the XGP comm system. Super easy to install. There's a couple different installation methods, just like every communications device. I think that the benefit of something like this is just the price point compared to other higher priced brands. I've always used less expensive comms and they've all worked for me pretty well. I know the less expensive ones maybe aren't as clear when you get distance, but this seemed to work okay. So I think it would require more testing to get, and long-term testing with someone to know exactly how it's going to be. But for me, riding solo most of the time, this is perfectly suitable the way it is. So anyway, if you're looking for a budget comm system for you and your buddy, or a budget comm system to throw on your helmet so you can get turn-by-turn direction and listen to music and podcasts while you ride, not a bad way to go. And if I didn't already have a comm system, or if they hadn't sent me this, I would definitely consider it as the unit that I would use. So anyway, if you have any questions, leave that in the comments below. If they provide me with any type of discount link, I will leave that in the comments below as well. And then I will leave a link, the Amazon links, so you can go find it and check out all the additional specs that come with this. So anyway, remember, you can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. So don't pass up that ride you've been thinking about doing. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there. It's a nice voice to listen to on the power on and power off. I always like hearing a woman's voice.